Basically, we wanted to have a press availability date today to speak to the media about a situation that arose last week. It involved a violent crime, and as a result, we were then notified by our probation officers that they had a big problem with the way the case was handled by our probation administration. Basically, one of our probation officers had been trying to violate by writing VOPs, violations of probation, against Mr. Flores, who was the driver of the car who drove into the elementary school in North America.
He's not the driver.
That's what I said. I didn't think he was the driver.
No.
He was the
He was
driver
the
of
one
the
who
car
arrested
that took the
afterwards.
other suspect to the
Remick
car.
Menjivar.
So strike that.
Okay, start
Right.
over.
Strike that.
Involved in the
He was involved in the incident. Regardless, this is not really so much about Mr. Flores. This story and this news is about how Nassau County and how its probation department is dealing with convicted felons, violent criminals. Probation is not a right. Probation is a luxury, basically. It's an opportunity to not spend your time in jail as long as you follow the rules and do not violate the conditions of your probation. Clearly, this individual did violate on several occasions, and I believe you have the letter that's unnamed, but we forwarded it. It was written by the probation officer, and I'll just run through the events. The probation officer tried on several occasions to violate this particular individual, and each time was told no. The way it works in probation is the officer writes the order of violation, and then the final determination is made by the administration. She cites in her report several times that he missed things such as anger management programs, GED programs, and about 7 or 8 actual probation dates. Any one of those is a reason to violate. Put them together and it's clearly a reason to violate this particular individual. Those violations were ignored. They were told, no, we're not going to violate. And then, of course, we had the unfortunate incident, I believe it was March 20th, if I'm correct, where we had a carjacking and a police pursuit, and the police did a great job. And the very next day, when this particular probation officer came to work, her official documents were removed from her computer. Her original violation was removed. It was nowhere to be found. Any notes that she had were removed. She was told by her supervisor, who you'll have to figure that out, that they were destroyed. She was then told to sign a new violation of probation, which they made, the administration wrote, and it sat on the desk of her supervisor. She refused to sign the new violation because it was not hers. Probation officers are supposed to sign their own violations, not other people's words. She refused to sign it. She came down here to speak to us, because they're in the same building. We called our attorneys up. We did not want to see this probation officer be cited for insubordination. So we said to her, you can sign it, but however, put them on notice that by signing it, you're signing it under duress and under the fear of being disciplined for not following orders. And she makes it very clear in here that I will sign this violation, but I want it to be noted that this is not my original violation. In other words, she was signing someone else's VOP as her own. The motives for such an act are not clear to us, other than this is not an isolated incident. The only reason it's being publicized now is because of the tragic results that happened, or it could have been much worse, right? But as a result of the probation department's following direction of John Fowl, who's the director of probation, he has changed so many programs in so many ways that the probation officers work, that we believe that the public is at risk. Public safety is severely at risk. And obviously, we had, and my partner here, Jim, will speak to the fact that his police officers were involved and one actually wound up in the hospital. We're not being honest with the public. They believe that we're the safest crime rate in the nation, and maybe that's because of incidents like this, where things are not being reported. This is not an isolated, I'm told by probation officers, this is not an isolated incident. This is something that is done routinely now. It's very tough to get somebody violated. I mean, I was even told, and this is, I'll put it on the record because I was told by probation officers, that they actually caught a probationer rolling a joint in their waiting room a week ago. And when the officers went to arrest him, he was told to let him go, that marijuana is not a real crime. Now, maybe, I don't know what the law on that is, but certainly when you're on probation and you're visiting your probation officer, I don't think rolling a joint in the waiting room is the way to attend that. It shows disrespect for the process, shows disrespect for the entire fact that you are given another opportunity to stay out of jail, and it shows disrespect for the public. So we are concerned for my probation officer's safety, extremely concerned, that they are unable to carry out their duties as prescribed by New York State. They have protocol to follow, and they are unable to do that, and we are very concerned about the public safeties and obviously for the officers.
Jerry, is there any criminality here?
When I wrote this letter to Mr. Fowl, I indicated in there that I am putting you on notice that CSEA plans on defending this member with all our resources. We believe the ramifications of what have we been told are far serious and may be in violation of the law. I'm no lawyer, but I do believe that when you alter or hold back or destroy and change official documents so it fits your needs, certainly the DA needs to look into it, and I'm told the county executive has done just that. He has forwarded this complaint to the district attorney's office.
Jerry, what are they doing? Are they trying to cook the books for statistical reasons? Are they trying to save money? What's the motive? Why?
Well, we do believe that there's a severe staffing shortage in probation, so it probably has a little bit to do with money, but I think it has more to do with you know, how you want to be perceived, and, you know, being able to say that I'm the new director, and since I took over, you know, we violated X amount, 20% less than what used to be done. You know, we have a better grip on probationers. We're doing a much better job, when in fact, it's smoke and mirrors. If they were doing a better job, they'd probably be violating more probationers. And this is a dangerous fella who obviously should have been violated before this crime took place, and that's the whole reason why we're here today.
Is this because of the job cut? I mean, like, what percentage down are they in job cuts, and do you know what percentage down they are in violation?
Well, we're down, I know we're down substantially, not so many probation officers, but assistant probation officers, and they used to handle a lot of the paperwork. So as a result, probation officers now have to handle their own paperwork, which takes up a lot of their time. And I'm not so sure, you know, even if you're working understaffed, do you alter records? I mean, you know, let's not mix the two. Yeah, we're working understaffed, we know they have tremendous caseloads, but you have to do the job right and under the auspices of the law, and if it's that much tougher to do, so be it. I don't think because you're shorthanded, that gives you the right to then alter records or destroy records and make things look as if everything's okay, just because, hey, I'm shorthanded, I had to do this.
You say, that's what I still don't understand. Why, what's the motivation for them not issuing violations of probation? If someone is considered dangerous, how does that benefit the administration of probation to not do that?
I'll let you mean.
Well, the one point I think Joshua, what he's trying to make here is this. The probation officer, in spite of cut staff, that's happened throughout the whole county within the police department and everything, did a fine job and reported this violation and actually did her job. It was a failure of the administration to follow through with that, and that's where one of my police officers got hurt. This is the problem I have when I was called on Friday is that, you know, we go out there and we're locking these guys up. Some of them get probation, they're afforded the opportunity for probation, and now you're supposed to be watched and you're supposed to be monitored, and when a probation officer sees there's a violation, and then the administration says, well, no, let's disregard that, That's not right. It's almost like putting these people back on the street again to sit there and do more destruction. You know, it's like having kids. If you allow your kids, if you tell them you're not allowed to do this, and you keep on letting them do one step at a time, further and further and further, this is the result of what happened. So again, the probation officer did the right thing here. It was the administrator, her supervisor, that failed to respond to that in the proper way. And that's the issue that we both have here right now.
But Jerry, what you're saying basically is that by not arresting these violators, that it makes the probation department look like they're running a tight ship, and they have their probies who are, you know, good now?
We don't have enough, we're just as confused as you are as the motives. We're speculating, because our probation officers come down here quite frequently and complain about changes in SOPs and directives that they've never seen before. Things that just don't make sense. And one of the biggest ones is the fact that it's getting tougher and tougher to violate these felons. And that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the public safety. It certainly proved to be not good for police officers, especially the police officer that wound up in the hospital, as Jimmy cited. And it's not good for my probation officers, because my probation officers feel that they're putting their lives in jeopardy here, because they don't have an official gang unit anymore like they used to have. They're going out ones and twos. They used to go out 6 and 8 probation officers at a time. Because of the cuts made by this director, they weren't able to really, handle the load and be effective. So maybe we don't know what the reason is. I'm sure the administration is gonna say this: we're allowed, under the law, to alter probation officers' recommendations. And to some extent, they're correct. For grammatical, for spelling reasons, for those kinds of issues, before a violation actually goes to the court, because you need that court order to violate. That's true, supervisors will go over the language and tighten it up. However, destroying records and ignoring complete reports, and then producing your own violation that she didn't even write, and asking her to sign it as if she did, that's not checking for grammar. That's altering official documents and official records, and I believe it's serious. I believe it could be a crime, and we don't know who's responsible. I would not be surprised if this rises high in the department, but I don't know that for sure yet, and we hope the DA's investigation will bring us to that answer.
Can you explain again why your lawyers allowed this employee to sign off on an altered document that she knew was not accurate?
Because she was in fear. This department has a reputation, especially lately under the direction of John Fowl, of going after employees. It's his way or the highway. And no one with 18 or 20 years of experience wants to lose their job. How would I feel as a union if I said to her, don't sign it, and then she came back down fired? Now I have 2 fights on my hand. So she let them know, I'm signing it because I don't want to be fired. However, I want you to know, I'm signing it under duress, and it's not my VOP.
Have any other employees had to sign these kind of documents in the past?
We believe that there's been quite a lot of this type of action going on there, and we've had numerous complaints from probation officers over the past year under the direction of this new director. Former director name was Jerry Cook. We rarely ever heard from probation officers. He ran a good ship. Since this guy's taken over, we have probation down here at least once a day.
When was that? When did he take over?
About a year and a half ago.
Are you guys suggesting that if the original VOP had taken hold, this person would have at that point been in custody and the carjacking would not
I think
have
that's exactly the point here, is just that if the process was followed through like it should have been, then perhaps this wouldn't happen that day. And don't forget, this chase wound up on the footsteps of a school, that occupied school at that time, that was close to lunch hour there. So, God forbid they had opened up the doors at that time and something worse could have happened. But in the meantime, one of my police officers did suffer a serious concussion. He's going to lose some time of work because of this.
But
So in
specifically
essence-
on Flores, though, do you know the terms of his probation? So violating, missing GED and anger management, is that enough to get you, should he have been locked up again?
According to our probation officers, any one of those infractions would have been enough to violate them. Of course, you give people the benefit of the doubt on 1 or 2 occasions, but there's a whole array of dates here.
Right, but
that-
just because you violate someone doesn't mean they're getting locked up again automatically, does it?
Well, yeah, it does. If you get violated, then what happens is these VOPs, violations of probations, get sent to a judge who signs off on them, and you are arrested.
So exactly how many violations did this probation officer?
I don't know
have?
exact, I don't know that, I don't know the answer to that exactly, but it looks like numerous.
I think one of the most serious ones, though, is the anger management. You're on probation, anger management, because you're a violent offender, and when you don't follow through with that, I think we need to take people like that off the street. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like, he missed school one day, he missed an anger management program. That's the key here, and it resulted in that day, of his anger, so.
You know, the bottom line is, the residents of Nassau County, like the residents of any municipality, they depend on government. They depend on government to protect them. That's why we have police officers, and we have deputy sheriffs, and we have probation officers and fire marshals. And we have a whole sequence of different titles, and with the object of protecting the residents from the bad guys. And I think in this case, the way this was handled, we failed. And we failed because of the policies of this probation department. I'm not gonna let it continue. We're not gonna let it continue to go unchallenged, because we are putting people's lives at risk. Probation officers and police officers' lives at risk, and God forbid any kids who were in that school that day. This could have been a far worse tragedy. So it needs to be addressed, and if there is any criminality, that needs to be investigated by the district attorney, and I'm told that they are looking into it.
Jerry,
Was
how
this-
likely is it that if this document had not been allegedly altered, that when someone went to the probation department and said, why is this guy Flores out on the street? Someone would have went back to the file and said, good question, because he's missed 7 to 8 probation dates, he didn't go to anger management, he missed his GED.
You never would have known that. You wouldn't have known that unless we told you. Who knows? Who follows probation reports?
But obviously, the altering of it, there was a motive, because you could look at that report and say, this guy shouldn't have been
Well,
on the
I
street,
think the
right?
motive was, how do you say, CYA? I mean, I think the motive was there was a big incident where a crime was committed, and now they're worried about why didn't we violate this guy? And they say, well, she tried to violate him several times, so we better come up with a violation right now. So throw her stuff out, destroy her records, so there's no copies of it anywheres, and let's write a new one and make us sign it today. And that's exactly how this played out. I didn't make this up. This is what we were told by the probation
But why
officer.
not go with the original report?
Sometimes, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up here.
The
So
cover-up.
perhaps maybe somebody thought they really should have did this to begin with, and now they're trying to cover up what they did in the past. And this probation officer was not gonna put up with that. And this probation officer reported it, and I got a phone call about that. So that's the bottom line. The probation officer was doing the right thing, and it wasn't followed through, that's one thing. But when you try to cover that up, and try to cover your bases and say, I mean, obviously they're worried about something, that's why they're covering it up.
Jerry, your members, what do they say is the reason behind this? Is it because the workload is greater, because the staffing is less, and they're trying to reduce the workload?
You know, the
or
picture
it
is so
something else?
big and so large, there's so many different directives that have been changed in the last year and a half, I couldn't begin to tell you. That would be another whole story. It's the way that this particular probation administration has decided to tackle probation. They have changed a lot of things. They don't report as many cases like they're supposed to. I'm told caseloads are much higher than they appear because they assign cases to supervisors to keep them within the right boundaries. And we can go on for days here. I have probation officers in here every day, some of them are crying, saying that they fear for their jobs, but they also fear for their safety, and they fear for the safety of the public. So we need to get to the bottom of this, finally, and find out, how is he running this department? Is he following all state regulations? And was there a crime committed here? And I believe, personally, that altering an official document and ordering someone to sign something that was not written by them, especially a government document, is a crime.